The body remembers. This video explores how trauma responses are stored within the body and in turn prevents people from recovering. Our body can remain stuck in the middle of the threat cycle, with the charge of fight and flight energy running. This can have all sorts of negative consequences. Talking about those storms in people's past and that we need to address those things in the past that trigger us today. Supposing that people don't remember what happened to them, because that very often happens, because it's too painful and they block it out, so they can't remember specifically traumatic events if it's not a hugely, they were in a car crash or something, but they were just sort of not minor, but they don't remember it basically. Is the work then that you have to do as an adult to clear that if you don't remember it through your body, so through the movement of your body and finding that trauma within the body rather than your mind. I don't know if actually that made any sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It basically, I'm trying to say that
you're asking how do you get it done?
We'll come to that later. How you put that line to sleep, but if you don't remember specifically,
the body remembers.
The body remembers, exactly. So
if you have unfinished business in your reaction to something, it's in you for life.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not about remembering or not remembering. It's like saying, I don't know, if you cut a finger off, you've cut a finger off. And whether you remember cutting it or not, it's not there.
So it doesn't matter if you don't remember.
It's irrelevant. It's a whole different part of your anatomy. Your memory is, memory is not an easy thing to describe or explain, but it's different. It's like saying, if I let the airs out of my tires, is it going to affect my engine in my car? No, these are just different things. So when you have unfinished business in your nervous system, whatever's going on in your hippocampus memory file upstairs in your prefrontal cortex is just another way of responding to the same experience. So this idea that if we can't remember things, they didn't happen, just isn't true. If you had your hand cut off when you were 2 weeks old, you wouldn't remember it, but you still would know your hand wasn't there.
And you say that the all so-called mental health symptoms happen inside your body, which is what we've just been discussing, and your brain is in your body. And so if you're tired and crying, it's happening in your body. Can you explain that a bit further?
Well, I think that there's a bit of sleight of hand when we talk about something called mental health, because actually I think what's going on is that there's an awful lot of things happening between the top of your head and the bottom of your feet, which conventional medicine doesn't yet know what to make of it. And these things happen just in things that are not considered to be mental health. Like people will go to the doctor and say, I've got a backache. And the doctor will do all sorts of tests and they can't find any reason for this. And they'll call it medically unexplained symptoms. There's lots of these things. And often doctors will say, well, this is because of stress or tension or whatever. But then there are all these other things that seem to, the kind of domino chain of symptoms seems to end up landing on things like their thoughts or their behaviors or their emotions or their feelings. And then these are put in a separate basket and you think, well, that's happening over in a different place. So we'll call that the mental health problems. But these, all of these symptoms can co-occur. People often talk about comorbidity, as if it's some sort of mysterious coincidence. But what's really going on is that it is like a chain of dominoes. So you can start with dysregulation. That'll affect the biochemistry of your nervous system, which will change the way some of your organs are regulating. It'll change your posture. And if you think about, fight or flight versus rest, your body's going to move differently. It's going to hold itself differently. You're going to have different thoughts. You're going to generate different biochemistry in your brain. yes, you're going to be anxious. You're going to be, you're going to have different hormones pumping around your body. Everything changes. So at the end of it, yes, your thinking changes, and this changes your behavior, and it changes the things you do to try and recover and help yourself. You might be drinking vodka all day long because you're so overwhelmed, and then you're called an alcoholic. There's so many things that go on down this chain of dominoes. And I think what happens is that we try to kind of compartmentalize into something called mental health and then deal with the final domino on its own. It's like, well, stop drinking or take an antidepressant or get out of bed. But really what we need to do is understand the chain of dominoes. And the most important domino, of course, is the first one, not the last one. The last one's the one we go and complain about, but the first one is the one we want to treat. So when you talk about mental health problems, I think it's just a way of, and it's like saying medically unexplained symptoms. It's like a basket diagnosis for something we haven't yet really put our finger on what is going on. And there's no such thing as a mind in medicine. You can't have a mental health because you don't have a mind to have a health of. And I mean that in the sense that there isn't a physical thing called a mind. So, medicine and healing is done to you, to your body, from something from your head to your toe. And when you look at nervous system treatments, that's exactly what's happening. You're being treated as a slightly malfunctioning physical organic object, which has consequences for things that we talk about as our mind.